Hi everyone, I'm Stephanie Howe and I'm a community coach, and I'm so excited to share how you can use FedEx Day to excite your students and to help them with other projects throughout the year. So let's go ahead and get started with what is FedEx Day and how can I excite my students. So FedEx Day is an activity where your students are going to break things, try stuff, and fail. You're trying to create an environment where your students are excited to try and create that psychological safe space in your classroom. I often like to use FedEx Day at the start of the year, and this is usually the first project that we kind of begin. It's a one-day project for your students to explore and engage in their learning. And the reason it's a one-day project is because you're setting up different activities to get them to learn how you are expecting them to research, how you're expecting them to work with a partner, how you're expecting them to give feedback. So you're setting up a lot of the different procedures that you're going to want to have in place throughout the entire school year. So again, keep in mind that you want your students to break things, try stuff, have a lot of fun with this project, and they're able to also get a little bit creative and excited about what they're about to learn through FedEx Day. And so FedEx Day begins with a bunch of different activities, and we use design thinking as well. So the first activity is you're able to use these slides, or you can also convert these into a Google document. Or if you're like me, I really like to use School AI. And what School AI can do is it's a chatbot with your students to help them brainstorm their different projects. So I'm going to walk through kind of the entire project first, and then I'll walk through how I kind of set this up. So first thing is we want our students to think about their talents and their impact. And how can they use those talents or impact to change the world? So they're going to brainstorm a couple different ideas. You can either use the crazy sixes right here, where students have 30 seconds per box. There's a timer right here to support you with that. And again, they have 30 seconds per box to go through this activity, and the timer will just keep going. They put one idea per box on how their talents or how they plan to change the world. And so again, maybe they're passionate about homelessness. Maybe your students are thinking about how they can support animals. They can think about different pieces of the world that gets them excited, right? That gets them really excited to make a difference in this world. After they go through these ideas, or after they brainstorm with the School AI bot, you can see here, let's brainstorm together. What are you deeply, passionate about? I can put homelessness. Students can list out a bunch of different ideas, and then it's going to take them on to the next step once they drill it down to one idea. And again, they could have multiple different ideas to think about why, right? Can you write one or two sentences about why this matters to you? So now they have to think about why this matters to them. The homeless population really matters to me because I want to create areas where people have homes and food, and they're able to survive in a more sustainable place. I can use audio, or I can even type my thoughts out to support my thinking and my ideas. Okay, so after I kind of come out with my topic, either by using this activity where I come up with 6 different ideas, or if I use School AI Spaces where I come up with a couple ideas here, and then I have to explain why, you can decide how you want to support that project-based learning. Once I have that, we go into research. And so now students are going to begin to brainstorm and think about those kind of topics. Okay, so they're going to think about homelessness, and they're going to kind of use this mind map to connect all of their ideas. One thing you'll notice is there's timers embedded. I really like having timers embedded because it allows my students to stay focused. Again, this is a one-day activity to give my students kind of that low cognitive. They're using something they're excited about to support them in building this project. So again, I like to have a lot of different timers built right in. And typically I'll have my students kind of take a pause from the space. Once they get to step 2, you'll see here, I'll kind of say, okay, once you get to step 2, we're going to pause, and we're just going to kind of use this mind map. Usually it is on a piece of paper, and they're going to draw out their different ideas, and I set that timer for them to go through the different ideas for them to brainstorm those activities. So you can see here in the speaker notes, you'll find templates. So if you're in that slide, let me go back to that slide real quick just so you can see where I'm talking about. Down here in the speaker notes, there is a Google document if you want to print these out for your students. You can print all these out and you can do front to back, you can do one-sided, however you think your students might need enough room to support their project. This is here to support you. Okay, so again, that is down in the speaker notes of that slide number 5. And so again, they use that time to brainstorm different ways that they could solve or what others might know about this topic, and they use that mind map to kind of build out that idea. So I put homelessness right here in the center, and then I could link it to my other ideas to support my thinking. Now we're ready to research. So now we go through what do I know? What do I want to know? How will I find out? What have I learned? And what actions will I take? And what further questions do I have? And so again, I could have my students kind of research and use this chart to kind of write out their ideas. Or again, we can go back to that School AI space, step number 2, and you'll see here is this nice little table. And my students can actually come in here and type, what do they know about homelessness? What do they want to know? What will they find out? What will I learn? What actions am I going to take? And what questions do I still have? So students can help kind of create this chart. They can see down here different examples of I know that homelessness can result from job loss, mental illness, and lack of affordable housing. So they can kind of use these examples and questions that the AI used from step 1 to support your students' thinking as well. And so right here, there's also directions to support them, but really they're able to come in, type their ideas onto this chart, and if they get stuck, they can ask Dot over on the side, what else might I need to know about homelessness? And they can use Dot to kind of help them as they're filling out this table to support them, right? And what Dot's gonna do is it's going to support them with different questions to help them with their research. It's not necessarily going to give them answers, but it's telling them you might want to know what causes homelessness, what support exists, how many people are affected. So then students can use this to help guide their research and as they're researching on the web. Students can also come over here and maybe they say, what actions could I take to support homelessness? Okay, and again, they're going to use Dot to help their thinking, and then they can come over here and fill in their table, right? So right here we can see, or use your talents. Maybe you think about volunteering at a food shelter, organizing a food drive, or something else, right? And right here, would you like to brainstorm to match your interests? Okay, so again, it's getting really personalized, supporting students with this activity to support their learning. Okay, so again, they come in, they can add any questions they have, what they still want to know, and they're able to guide their thinking. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And while students are working on this, right here is how I can see their progress. This is called mission control. And with mission control, I can see my students right here. They'll all be listed. And I can see what step they're on. This is our agenda progress. They can also search by mastery, who's maybe struggling with the research part, who's maybe struggling with coming up with an idea. And I can use these indicators for mastery to meet with my students in a small group to help them with whatever step on that agenda they might be at. So I can say, okay, I need these 3 students. They're still at step 1. I'm going to meet with them and we're going to talk about what gets them excited, what gets them interested. I can also view by what step on the agenda they are on, and I can view their progress that way too. So again, this can be really helpful to be able to see how your students are progressing towards the learning objectives of this activity. I can also see insights. I can click and I can view more. I can also view insights here too for just that student. So this can be a great way to also support my students with with those next things, right? And so then it's going to say, all right, let's start by writing 2 things you already know about homelessness. And I can say, it can be caused by mental illness. It can be also a lack of affordable housing, or even a job loss can be the cause of homelessness. And so after the students kind of type this in, now they're summarizing with Dot what they've learned about their research right here. Okay, so now it goes into what do I want to know, right? I want to know what organizations are already out there solving this problem of homelessness. And so again, students can go back and forth as they complete this chart to really support them. So then it says, can you add one more thing, right? Maybe you're curious about the solutions, right? So I'm really curious about the solutions when it comes to homelessness and how people can overcome it. So again, it can challenge your students to think. And again, you're able to use that missions control to see how your students are progressing towards those learning objectives. Okay. And so once we've got that, it's also kind of coming over here, and there's another new document where students are kind of having all of what they've said, what they've researched, and it's organizing their thoughts into another document. So how are we going to find out? I am going to interview experts, right? And so again, students can add their ideas. It's helping guide the research to support students thinking on this project. Again, there's multiple ways that we're able to do this. Students can also fill out that chart. There's also a activity right here where maybe as they're talking with Dot, you could take away this power up. So we talked a little bit of how did I create this little agenda right here. And so what I was able to do is I was able to come into School AI. And once I'm in School AI, I'm able to come in and I want to go over to My Spaces. Okay, My Spaces where teachers can brainstorm with Dot a topic that they want their students to do. So I could brainstorm with Dot, hey, I want to do this FedEx project. Help me come up with, success criteria or activities like that. This is more teacher facing. Discover is our library. If you're wanting to find the FedEx template, you can go to Discover and you're able to search FedEx and you should be able to find it. It actually might be called, I need to change the name. So I'll update the name because it's now called Innovate for Impact. But you can search for that right here. And then you'll find that activity right here. Okay, so it's created by me, Stephanie Howe. But I'll share the direct link as well. And so what I do is I come in here to create a space. And when I'm creating a space, I want to use it for student learning. And what I do is I explain my slides to Dot. So this is Dot right here. And I come in here and I've already typed it all out. And when you're creating a prompt, it really helps to have a 4-step prompt where I have to define the role. Who do I want this to act of? Okay, so I want this to act of like a project innovation coach. I want this to be a coach that's like supporting my students through researching, planning, delivering their passion projects. I'm also kind of encouraging that break things, try stuff, fail mentality. I also want my students to reflect and adapt quickly. Okay, then step 2, after I have that role of that coach and what I want them to kind of respond as to create that safe space, I want to provide a task. Well, I want my students to have a 1-day project. Okay, I just want it to be 1 day. And throughout this 1 day, I'm able to come in here and I say, okay, these are the things that I want my students to do. And this is how I want you to respond. I want you to reflect. I want you to choose ideas, design actionable plan, work through setbacks, celebrate learning, and not just polish results. So here is where I'm coming in and I'm prompting this agenda to create this project that's meaningful for my students. After that, I go into the detailed instructions and I go into each of the different phases. Okay, first I wanted them to kind of use that mind map, right? Then they went into that KWL chart. That's where we just saw. And here's the questions that they're currently going through and brainstorming with Dot. After that, I want them to plan and create. And then I want them to present and package their ideas. And then they're ready to reflect. After I create my detailed instructions and I create those kind of guiding detailed instructions and I have my task, I'm then ready for the requirements. And this is where I'm like, okay, I don't want you to give answers. I want you to support them. I want you to reinforce that productive struggle. And I also want you to limit. And so once I have my entire project kind of mapped out, and you can kind of use either if you're like exactly know what you want for your project, you can come here. And I like to use Google Docs because it allows me to kind of brainstorm and go back and edit a little bit easier. But you can also have a conversation with Dot. So I could explain my project right here to Dot of what I wanted to create for my project. You can also link in a file or standards. So I could hyperlink this slide deck right in there and say, Dot, can you help me create a prompt, an activity, and an agenda that aligns with this project that I've done for years? And you can kind of, again, brainstorm back and forth to make that really strong and have conversational prompting. Or if you're like, okay, I know exactly what I want, I'm just going to copy and paste this template right here. And I can go ahead and paste this into my space. And then Dot's just going to think. And as Dot's thinking, we're going to see over here a space is being created. This is going to be that agenda that your students see up here. And so as they're traveling through this agenda, we can see that they can see, okay, I've identified the problem, I've done the research, all right, now I'm ready for that power-up creation, right? And so as they're going through, they're able to, again, talk with Dot, answer those questions, and complete that agenda. Let's go ahead and see what's been created. So right here, we can see that it has created each of these different pieces. And with each of these different pieces, we can see that a mind map power-up has been added. A document generator, which you can see currently on the screen right here. This is a document generator. There's also a doodle board. And so there's all of these different power-ups. And if I wanted to add a power-up here, you're able to click add power-up and you can search which power-up you would like to include for your space, okay? So here's where I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna change this to FedEx Day so you can find it if you're searching in the library. And it will create that image. You can decide if it's public or private. You can also change the grade level if you need to. And so once I have that agenda created, I'm ready to publish that space and share that link with my students, okay, which we'll walk through in a little bit, okay? So yes, let's brainstorm ideas. Okay, so now I'm ready to go on to that next step of my agenda, and now I have a doodle board. Okay, so this is what that doodle board power-up looks like. And my students are able to come in and they can brainstorm maybe 3 different ideas of what this might look like, okay? So again, you can have your students work through the chatbot, which I really love because when I did this activity prior to AI, it was a lot of me giving that feedback and support and scaffolds. Where here with the AI, I'm able to use that mission control to see how my students are doing, and I'm able to use that data to pull students to support them through the learning process. Before, I didn't get to see their learning until different checkpoints or as I was walking around. Where here it's kind of immediate, and also what I love is that the AI Dot can support them with scaffolds by adding additional questions. They can provide sentence starters. They can even push their thinking a little bit further if they need that extension. So again, feel free to use the documents in here or have your students explore in this School AI space. And so again, they come in, what do I know about this topic? What questions do I have? Then they come in and they find 3 different sources. Also with this template right here, I like to use it side by side. So if I were to go back to step number 2 where my students were researching, I'll have this printed out, and as they're researching with Dot, I'll have them jot down their ideas first, and then they can come into School AI and summarize. So now they're taking their learning where they're researching, they're jotting down notes, but then they're taking it a step further where they have to summarize what they learned to make those connections. So again, some of these activities I like to use a mix where it's with School AI, but it's also an offline activity where students are coming in, writing down or jotting down notes, and then they're summarizing their ideas with School AI. After they take that, we're ready to create that plan. So you can see here's a template for that if you wanted to use something that was like, either a Google slide, but again, I can have my students use this doodle board. They can draw, they can type, they can explain their ideas. And so right here, what's your first idea? I want to do an event. Okay. And so I can chat with Dot, get feedback on my activity, where again, before my students would have to wait for me to kind of give them feedback. And then you can see here where they're like, oh, that's a great idea. Let's add 2 more, right? So let's see, what else could we do? I could say food donations and partnering with famous people. So again, they can chat with their ideas, get them out there as they're brainstorming. After they're ready to take action, they can, again, draw it on a piece of paper. They can draw it in your School AI space. And then again, they can summarize right here. Let's say, for example, you wanted your students to do their doodles offline. In your space, you can just exit out. So right here on step number 3, this is a step that we're on. I can change the directions in here if I don't like what the AI created based on what I said. You can make any edits. But right here, I can exit out and say, I want this. Step 3, I want it on paper, and then I want the students to come in and use their thoughts. Okay, so that can be something that you might want to say or do, is you can exit out of these power-ups if you're like, nope, they're doing it offline, and then I want them to summarize with the School AI bot. You have full control of creating and kind of adapting what the students produce out of this project. Okay, and then after that, students need to think about what material do they need. Typically, all of these activities, all of these steps where students are brainstorming are coming before lunch. Okay, so again, a lot of these activities are happening right before lunch, so that way students are prepared to create their final product by the end. So I try to get them, again, really focused, getting them to create. Most of the morning is very difficult, right? They're learning how to research. They're learning how to come up with ideas. They are doing a lot of work kind of with the computer or with a piece of paper and brainstorming. It's a lot of brain power. And so after lunch is where we can get into the creation part and building that prototype. However, students need to first list out things, right? What material do they need? So that way when they come back from lunch and recess, they're ready to go, right? They know what material they need. They know why they need it. It's not just a waste of string. They're actually coming in and they're building out kind of that material. Okay, so here's where they can, again, which one do you think the sketch outlines first, right? I'm going to say hosting an event. So once they have their hosting an event, I need to think about what material do I need in order to host this event, right? So I can kind of see here, right? My purpose is I want to raise awareness. I want to support the homeless. Activities, right? I might do a fundraiser, educational talk. Well, I might need PowerPoint. I might need Google Slides. Oh, a community meal. I might need to create like a menu on Canva or a flyer, right? So again, students are kind of thinking about what materials do I need in order to create this event to support my activities, right? And you can also see here, now they're like kind of evaluating. How does this event help people? What challenges you face? And how does it connect to your KWLHAQ research? So now they're making those connections, right? So I can say, I'm really excited about the event because it's going to raise awareness and support for homelessness. I'm also getting the community involved, and I'm having different speakers and volunteers and getting people aware. So it's not just a one-time event. It's very much action oriented where they're going to hopefully keep giving and supporting the homelessness throughout the year. And so again, students can add those thoughts there. And then once they have all of their materials thought up, once they have everything kind of created for their FedEx day, students then are ready for the next activity. So again, they usually go to lunch now. They come back and now they're going to fail fast, learn fast, and improve fast. And I love this quote where we aim to make mistakes faster than anyone else. This is Spotify's CEO where he talks about, we just want to push out ideas, push them out, because the faster we do that, we can make those changes and support our students. So again, we come back after lunch and we just remind students, creating that safe space. Fail fast, learn fast, and improve. So based on what we did in our research, right, we used a lot of brain power, but now it's time to create. And so again, we talk about failure recovery is a lot stronger than failure avoidance. So again, I just want to get my students to create. And so then we set a timer, and they are reminded that they're going to present their ideas to the class. So for about an hour, 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours, depending on how much time you have, students are going to create a project that they can ship. And so with their product that they can ship, their goal is to deliver. So they are going to make different delivery routes to explain what they created. So based on their sketches, based on their mind maps, students have to think about, okay, what material do I need that's going to make this successful, right? So maybe I need flyers, maybe I need a venue, food, volunteers, a website. So once students have all of those things that they created before lunch, they're actually going to start creating. They're going to start creating their posters. They're going to start creating their websites. They're going to start creating the food list of what they might need. They start to build some type of prototype that they might need to make this an event successful. And so how will I know? I will have over 200 people in attendance, right? And so again, students are able to come in, think through what is it that they're hoping to exceed, how do they know it's going to be successful, right? And so then they're ready to begin to actually build. I've had students in the past build greenhouse buses, where these buses go around to different neighborhoods. I've had students create this gum where if you chew it, you're never hungry. So that could be another idea. So students have used this time to create some really cool projects, flyers and events and websites and Canva assignments and mock-ups and like football stadium type ideas. And so again, they're actually building with maybe cardboard. You might also have boxes or markers, paper, whatever, tape, whatever you can think of, straws, right? Whatever you can think of is kind of available to the students. And based on their material list is what they're going to grab. And they're going to spend the rest of their time creating that activity for their project. And so once students create, they're ready to kind of reflect, right? What have you learned so far? I've learned how to research and really kind of create ideas and get feedback with Dot to really support my learning. And I'm really excited with what I've created. I've created a flyer that's going to support and hopefully invite the community to this event. I also have an email ready to be sent to 2 football players to see if they'll talk at my event. I also have the community meal ready to go, and I have an idea of who could sponsor that as well. Okay, so again, they're kind of thinking about what have I learned. They're going to let Dot know. A lot of metacognition to support with that project. And now the students are ready to create their project, okay? And with this presentation creator, you can kind of see here, it kind of supports students. So what they're able to do is they've got, they can change the theme if they want, but I just kind of have here how they kind of want to think about their slides if they're going to present this to somebody. So they can actually export this and create a Google slide with what's exported or a PowerPoint in Microsoft. And once they have their Google slide, they can go in and make those edits. They can also edit right here on this document. So we talk about how this can kind of be a guide. However, how do we present this information to our class? How do we share? How do we ship it? Because we're going to ship it and we're going to make deliveries to 5 different classmates sharing what we created. And when we share, I want you to share the problem. What was the issue that you had? And again, Dot is kind of taking this summary and helping the students develop this. But then we talk about how they can take away these kind of texts to make this more presentable for when they're sharing. We talk about what was the solution that we did and what was our reflection. So they're going to share those 3 main points with their classmates on their delivery route. After they're we'll finish, students are going to think about the reflection. We talk about how we don't just blame others. It's not somebody's fault if something didn't get completed, right? But what did I learn and what will I change? So they think about their project and what changes they're going to make and what did they learn. And so that is students' projects. And so again, you're able to use AI to support your students, to support them and to help them throughout that learning process. You can also use Mission Control to help guide how the students are doing with their project as well. And once you have that space created, we talked about how you can edit and customize, take away, add power-ups to these different prompts if you want to. And once you're all set, you're going to hit publish this space. It's going to publish our space, and then you're ready to launch. When you launch this, you're ready to copy this link, and that is where your students join that space. So you can paste it into your Google Classroom, Schoology, Canvas course, or on a document. And as your students are going through, they're going to see all of those agenda items, and you're going to be able to see that mission control to see how your students are excelling or if they need support in that learning process. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed FedEx Day, and I can't wait to connect with you. So if you have any questions, please, please, please let me know. I would love to support and, again, connect with you. I'm actually going to throw up a link up on the screen for a raffle. So I'll give out a School AI raffle for you attending and watching and learning along with me, to kind of support you in your journey of kind of using School AI and to hopefully support you. So let me pull up my information just in case you need any support or need anything. So here is my name and my email and my social media. So I would love to connect with you on social media. So again, my name is Stephanie. Here's my social media, and then you can always email us at partners@schoolai.com. And then here is that URL. So if you pause this, screenshot this, grab this QR code, you can enter the raffle, and I'll pick one lucky winner to join and get some type of raffle where you'll get some type of swag to enjoy. So again, thank you so much for joining me today. I had so much fun thinking through how to set up your projects at the start of the year with success by using FedEx Day. Thanks everyone. And again, if you have questions, please reach out. I would love to connect with you, especially on social media.